are learning from. So tell us about, what have you learned? And what has been the struggles that you have seen? And how are you thinking about where you go next?
Okay, again, a good broad question. I'll try to keep it focused to some degree. So Grameen Foundation's Technology Center here in Seattle has actually been operational for actually 10 years this year. We're celebrating our anniversary. And really the evolution of Grameen Foundation's work into technology came from looking at Grameen Bank's work with the village phone model in Bangladesh. So, think about a woman taking out a microloan, getting a mobile phone, and then renting access to voice services in the community. And so while that model sort of became less and less viable from an economic standpoint as mobile phone penetration increased, the fundamental context there about having sort of a micro business in a poor community and having a business model that can be sustainable really is something that we see as valid. And so our early work in mobile phones and technology was really taking the village phone model and seeing how could this work if you take it out of Bangladesh that has extremely high population density and put it into a community in Rwanda or in Uganda or Cameroon. Can that model be adapted to work in these other contexts? And we learned a lot from that. And I'd say, about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, as we started to see the prevalence of SMS-based services, frontline SMS and other things, where people were starting to use the phone, as my colleague David Edelstein says, instead of just like this, we started thinking about, what else could you do with a mobile phone? And so our early foray into that was creating some services in Uganda together with MTN and Google that were really around search-based databases of information on health and agriculture. And we really, at that point, were in our very, very early stages of saying, can you create behavior changes and can you have social impact if you create these services? And in short, I won't go into detail, but in short, what we learned was just having the information and the services alone is far from enough to actually have the development outcome that you want and that you need. And so we kind of evolved that and really said, well, let's go back to the roots of this village-based entrepreneur model. What do you need to make something like that work and to have social impact? Well, you need someone who's trusted in the community. You need content and services that are not only valued by the people in the local community, but that actually have the potential to increase either their agricultural yields or improve their health decision-making or connect them to markets or transportation or the things they really need. And you need a business model that's going to work. And oftentimes that implies having complex but doable public-private partnerships with the private sector, with the government, with other organizations. So we took that sort of set of learnings and we said, well, let's try this in agriculture. So we've got this community knowledge worker program that I mentioned earlier. And really what we've done is start by saying, okay, what would it take to find these trusted intermediaries in the community? So we find partner organizations that already have farmer groups established in rural areas, and we work with them to establish what our criteria are going to be. These people have to be trusted by their peers and voted on. They've got to have some level of literacy, basic familiarity with a mobile phone, and a spirit of service. And so we go around and we actually recruit, we work very closely with sort of the local government people, agriculture extension organizations, et cetera, to get their blessing, and then we recruit these people in these approximately 5-kilometer sort of radius areas. And really they're given the opportunity to start an entrepreneurial business. They put a very small amount of money down to start the business, and then over time, as they deliver these services through the mobile phone to their neighbors, they can earn an income from that. And it can be up to about $20 a month, which for most of these people would about double their monthly income. And so really the key is saying, there's a lot of pieces that obviously can sort of fall apart in that model. It's very operationally heavy. But the key is really working deeply with these partner organizations who already have the presence on the ground. And technology, as we've heard, is really just an enabler. It helps facilitate the exchange of information. These community knowledge workers provide information to farmers about crop issues they're dealing with, or animal and livestock issues they're dealing with, and they collect data in the form of surveys. And I think what's important is that all of this work is happening on the ground. I sit here in Seattle. We have a very small office in Seattle, but I've got 40 colleagues sitting in Uganda, and only 2 of them are expats. And so our office is in Kampala, but we spend a significant amount of time out in the field doing very, very deep, I would say, visioning sessions where we're really trying to say, we think that there's a need for example, a bulk buyer solution to help farmers bulk their crops. Let's spend 3 days with a group of farmers and community knowledge workers to deeply understand every activity that those farmers undertake and say, what would this solution look like? And we use the mobile phone actually as a means of collecting that feedback on a very regular basis and tracking our own progress and our partners' progress. So I think really the key is the feedback loops there and making sure that we sort of are hearing firsthand from the people using the solution whether or not it's helping and what's not working, and then having a means by which we can sort of modify the solution to improve it if things aren't working. So I think, just to summarize, while I would say I agree with a lot of the things that have been said around how technology really is just a magnifier of human intent and capacity, I think one really interesting opportunity is to say, can you put a simple solution in the hands of people who maybe don't even know that they have that capacity? Give them the vision, give them the opportunity, give them the confidence to really undertake something. And so I think that kind of creating that entrepreneurial spirit is something that we're really trying to facilitate. And technology is a piece of the solution, but it's really not the solution in the end.
Joy, thank you.